Station. I'm Grace Hollowell, and today I'm joined by Mary Ellen Leonard, the Director of Fiscal Services here for the city. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. Welcome to the show. I think this is the first time, at least since I've been hosting, that we've had somebody from finance on the show. And I find that field very interesting. I am not a math person by any means, so anybody who can do math and do it well fascinates me.
Oh, wow.
So we are going to talk about a lot of fun things. We're in the heart of the budgeting process right now, so we'll get into that. But to kick things off, let's kind of give a history of your time here with the city. So starting off, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
So I'm the Director of Fiscal Services. This is my one and only government job. I am a CPA, graduated from A&M back in 1986, and have spent the majority of my career in Houston working for a Big Four accounting firm and Accenture, and ran my own practice, was CFO of a hospital,
Wow.
CFO of a restaurant chain, and then my husband and I moved back to College Station, and now I'm the Director of Fiscal Services.
That's something that we see a lot is people coming to College Station for university and either sticking around or ultimately coming back. So what is it about College Station that drew you back?
I came back because primarily my husband, he was a project manager at NASA, and
Wow.
he was in charge of building the moon base when the moon base got canceled.
Wow.
So no need for that guy in Houston. And they gave him an assignment where he was the liaison between NASA and the engineering college for about 3 years, and we had a commuter marriage, and
Wow.
our youngest was headed into high school, and at that point it's like, either we're going to keep doing this for another 4 years, or I'm going to close my practice and see what I can find to do in College Station. So that's what happened.
Yes. So what is one thing that you wish people knew about what you do in your area of expertise? I know it's kind of I think it's one of the more important things that we have here at the city is managing the finances. And like I said, I'm not someone who is well versed in that. So what is something that you wish people knew about what you do?
So first of all, it's not just me.
Right.
There is a whole team of folks upstairs that are really darn smart.
Yes.
That have to figure this out. And second of all, we cannot figure this out on the fly.
Right.
It is very complex, and for us to be able to do it right, you need to give us the problem and give us the puzzle and let us walk away, figure out the right pieces, and we'll come back. But we typically cannot sit there and give you an answer right off the cuff, because there's so many levers that get pulled in getting to an answer that it takes kind of a collaboration effort.
Yes, and a lot of planning that goes into it.
A lot of planning.
And it, like you said, it takes some time. Like we're working on the 2026 budget now, and that is something that I think that we do really, really well is the planning aspect of it. Obviously things change, but that's just the nature of it. And like you said, the smart people upstairs, they are very good at adapting to all of those changes. And I have never met any other math whizzes that compare to them upstairs.
Oh, thank you. I'm sure they will be thrilled to hear that.
Yes. So what is something that makes you so passionate about working for finance for the city? Like you said, this was your first government job, but you've stayed here, so there must be something that keeps you going.
I've said this to a lot of people before, but it's the people that are at the city
Right.
that would have helped me here. A lot of the work that I've done is, while it's complex and very difficult, it's not the same thing as running a hospital or a national restaurant chain, that kind of thing. But the people that are here are just genuinely good people who really have the best interests at heart. And I don't know that they get enough credit for trying to do the right things in the right way. And it's kind of breathtaking to be able to be in an environment where everybody's really just trying to do a good job.
Right.
So,
yes, that is one thing. Our motto, the one city, one team, I think rings really true. And the heart of public service is serving our public and serving our community. And we hear all the time, that is our ultimate goal here.
yeah, and with the decisions that get made up in finance, things like what is the tax rate supposed to be? What are we charging for utilities? All of that. Everybody that works in my department lives here or around here too, and they're very cognizant that if they make a recommendation that something is going to cost more, it's costing them more.
Right.
So they're trying every which way from Sunday to figure it out before they have to say that sentence. And to actually see that, compared to what you might see in the private sector, it really does make a difference.
Yes, and you've been awarded for the transparency through the state, and that is something too that I appreciate is the transparency. I know that maybe for the private sector, they're not as transparent with their finances. So what makes transparency so important?
So, actually, that was a task that was given to the finance department 9 years ago when I got here. It was one of the first things that was dumped on us, was to figure out how to do everything that was required by the now Chancellor, Glenn Hagar. He was the one that set up this program, and we were asked to figure out how do we achieve all of that. And again, the smart people upstairs have figured out how to put a lot of the information immediately accessible on the website, where if you're doing research for school, like the poli-sci classes or over at the Bush School, or if you're just genuinely interested in how we're coming up with an answer, almost all of that information can be found online, because they worked really hard at automating things behind the scenes, changing software, and making things more efficient so that we would be able to accomplish that. And this year we were awarded, we were one of 11 local governments that was awarded by the state a Transparency Trailblazer Award, meaning that we completed the entire program. And so everything that was initially envisioned by the comptroller is out on our websites, and only 11 local governments in the entire state accomplished that.
Yes, that is a big achievement.
Yeah, I'm really proud of the people that did all of that.
Yes, a lot of work went into that, and I know it's appreciated all around. So what is something, you've been here 9 years, what is the biggest thing that you've learned during your time here? I know you've seen a lot of changes, especially through COVID. That is something that I'm sure was difficult to navigate fiscally. So what is the biggest changes that you've seen here?
So I think the biggest change overall from the fiscal services aspect of it is related to technology. I had a background coming in from Accenture, which is one of the largest technology implementation groups in the world. And when I got here, we were still using green screen, old computers in almost every department. And in all of the areas, even where they've tried to modernize, they weren't using the software efficiently. So in the last 9 years, that's probably the biggest change, is we've looked for ways to do things with technology and not adding additional bodies, and get better and faster and drive some improvements into the system that way. And so far we've been able to modernize. The finance department already had implemented a new general ledger system, but we were able to implement modules that enhanced that. We implemented a new court system that gained a lot of efficiencies and allowed us to conduct virtual court during COVID, which was a huge benefit. And then we just finished implementing something over at the utility customer service that is enhancing a lot of what they're doing on the operations side.
Yes, technology is one of those things. It is ever changing, but for something like what you do, it is crucial to have the most efficient. To have the most efficient pieces of technology to make sure things are accurate.
Right. And we still use Excel, probably way more than other people do. But we're now able to connect to these more efficient programs and just get the output and turn around what if scenarios. And if leadership has asked us, okay, we think we can run faster than what we used to, what that impact might be across the city.
Gotcha. So before we get into our topic of the day, a couple more questions. What is something that most people don't know about you or what you do?
Oh boy.
It's a loaded question.
Yeah, that is a loaded question. Let's see. What most people don't know about me, probably that I was on food stamps as a kid. I grew up pretty poor.
Yeah.
And I think that still plays into, particularly in this role, when you do have to make a decision about costs and impacts. And
right.
I'm still pretty cognizant of the people that work for me that are still at that lower level pay scale, and when we make a decision, how is it going to impact them?
Right, and that's something I was raised partially by a single mother, so yes, learning about all of those experiences, it really shapes how you think and how you do your job.
Yeah.
I know for me, anyway, being a communicator and getting information out to people, that was something that, she had limited access to because we didn't have a computer. So
right.
Getting information about services or programs that she needed was a struggle because, she didn't have those means to get all of that information to her.
Right, exactly. And so when we do have to make changes, we're doing things like, I drove around one day to all of the HEBs and put posters up when we were changing the utility billing,
yes.
primarily because I knew there were people who weren't going to find out unless they went in to go buy their food.
Right.
So...
Yes, very important there. And lastly, how can people contact you if they have questions about anything we talked about today?
My email is directly on the website under cstx.gov under the department's fiscal services. Mine is the direct email that's out there. The rest of them are department emails, but right there, you just click on it. It goes right to my inbox, and I am constantly checking my emails on my phone almost all the time. So you'll get an answer pretty quick.
Gotcha. So let's get into the topic of the day, which is the budget. We have been in this process now for about a month. You guys more so.
Yeah.
It's a never-ending process for you. But how would you describe the overall philosophy behind this year's proposed budget?
So this year's proposed budget, actually, I kind of nickname them upstairs for everybody, and this one is the potato budget. It's not even meat and potatoes. It's very ordinary and
yes.
bland, but it's probably ordinary and bland because we're coming off of COVID and then Winter Storm Uri
yes.
with the electric failure, and then the hyperinflation. So we have been dealing for the last 3 or 4 years with some very high risk scenarios. And this year, we knew we were opening a new fire station.
Right.
We knew we had to plan for all those people. And so that's all we're doing, really, is doing what we should be doing, planning for the core services that the city needs. So it's kind of potatoes.
Yes, but that's not a bad thing. Sometimes that's what you need.
Yeah, exactly.
So what are the main priorities or goals that shaped how the budget was developed this year?
Public safety. Yes. Absolutely. Opening fire station number 7 has been on our mind since that general obligation bond passed several years ago. In order to staff a fire station, you need 24 people.
Right.
24 not so cheap people.
Yes.
So that is a big, heavy lift if you're trying to do it within your existing tax rate. And so we have been kind of noodling on that for years. We have half of those individuals that started this fiscal year in FY25, so 12, but they don't really count in the budget until FY26. So we've got those, and then we have to hire the other half where the station can't open in, I think it's supposed to open in a couple of weeks, like September-ish.
Yes, very
right?
very soon.
Yeah, so all of those people we have to be able to pay them all, or you can't staff a fire station 24/7.
Right.
So that has been on everybody's mind. And then to complement that, there's an additional need for the police. And so the police department ended up with 2 people that they needed in the middle of the fiscal year, and then they have 6 more in the budget. So that's a significant heavy lift, and that's what we really focused the budget on, was trying to make sure that we could pay for the public safety, which is a core service for the city.
Yes, and especially with a city like ours that is having a growth spurt,
Right.
if you will. We're getting a higher population, and with that comes a need for more public safety officials, and that is something that is definitely reflected in this proposed budget. How does the proposed budget reflect investments in the core services that directly impact our residents? We mentioned the public safety.
Oh my gosh. So I have to look up the numbers, so hold on a sec. But there were 24 people for the fire department, 8 for the police department, and 5 other staff. So the other staff are just kind of to augment the existing services. But when you add that number of bodies in one budget, that is a significant, it's almost $3 million that you need to find annually.
Right.
And you need to find it for multiple years. So that was the big thing that was added. And the police department, they come with stuff.
Yes.
Every 2 policemen get a car, and they need all their gear,
Yeah.
and they need their ammo and all of that. And the fire department comes with stuff too,
Yes.
and their stuff is even more expensive. Their breathing apparatuses, their fire retardant clothes, and their big old trucks.
Yes.
Those things are pretty expensive. So finding the money for all of that has been quite an endeavor.
Yes. So how does this year's budget support long-term growth? I know we kind of talked about with the public safety, we're laying the groundwork for these, like you said, new Fire Station 7 opening up. So how does it support the long term?
So when we do, and this was one of the things that we had changed and focused on since I've gotten here, but when we do a budget, we don't do a budget for just that year. We do a budget for the next 5 years so that we can see, okay, if we add 24 bodies at a fire station, are we going to be able to have that fire station open for the next 5 years? 5 years is typically a small business will fail within 5 years.
Right.
If you don't look that far out, and we're not a small business, so if we're not looking that far out to make sure that we are sustainable, or providing an early alarm system that, hey, we need to do this, but tax rates are going to go up 3 or 4 years from now. We're not doing the citizens any service by just looking only 1 year. So that's how we plan for that long term, is what is it that has to happen and can we sustain it? And if not, then how can we get to that point so that it is going to be sustainable?
Yes, that is something that is very important. Like you said, it's not just, we're looking at 1 year at a time. It is multiple years. We've had people from our planning and development services on the show, and they're always looking 5 years ahead. They have 5-year plans, so it's a good measure of time.
Yeah. Anything more, I teach a class over at A&M, and what I tell my students is if you look past 5 years, for us, it's just a math exercise. There is so much that can change.
Yeah.
That at 3 years, we're taking educated guesses, and at 5 years after that, it's really just math.
So can you share how the infrastructure needs are evaluated and prioritized during the budget planning?
Oh, so we have two processes that we do in budget. One is to take care of what's called operations and maintenance, which is ongoing salary, and one is to take care of capital needs, which is the things like parks and streets.
Yes.
And most of the infrastructure needs comes from our utility departments, which is electric, water, and wastewater. The needs for electric, water, and wastewater are prioritized by those experts. The directors and the assistant directors within those departments know best as to what is needed. They just tell us.
Right.
We give them a core philosophy of stay within the existing rate. So they know what our utility rates are. We can tell them that will generate about X amount for capital. So do your needs fit within that? And that's how a good chunk of the capital is done. The streets, the parks, and the public facilities, those actually come out of the tax rate themselves,
Right.
the property tax rate, a portion of what you pay. And those are prioritized in two fashions. One is from the general government bond process. We go out and we ask the citizens. There's a committee of citizens that kind of cull through the really long list of everything that we have, and they say this is a priority versus that being a priority.
Right.
And then that process, it actually takes about a year, and by the time you boil that down, then we go out to the citizens and they vote on it. This last bond election, most of what got voted on was a significant number of parks.
Yes.
And fire station number 7.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what we are doing. If there is additional needs that the city has, we have a mechanism that we can issue additional debt for what's called certificates of obligation. The city is right now using those certificates for things that are like public safety radios. The radios
Yes.
technology got better, and so we need new radios
Right.
for all of those public safety people to be able to
Yes.
talk to each other. And that wasn't in the plan, so we need to go out for debt for that. So we'll add that on as a priority. But for the most part, we use that general bond obligation where we have a citizens committee that calls down the list, and then the citizens vote on it.
Yes, which is why voting is very important, to make your concerns heard, especially when there's a bond with things like that on the ticket. So what trends are you seeing in revenue sources like sales tax or property values?
Oh boy. So property values for the last several years, and the property who sets those property values is no one in the city.
Right.
And
Which is a misconception.
Yeah, a big misconception. We find out the same time everybody else finds out what
Right.
the number is. And we can be wrong, and we were really wrong this year. But the property values are set by the Brazos Central Appraisal District. And when those come out in March, we get a summary of what those are. For not this year, but for 3 years before, those have been double-digit increases. To me, as a math person, that is not going to be sustainable in the long term.
Right.
For us or for citizens. This year, the city is going to get another double-digit increase, but it's not coming from the residents. It's coming from the multifamilies, so the high-rises
Yes.
in Northgate and that type of development, and the like Fujifilm, where that is a huge industrial development that is over on the boundary line between College Station and Bryan. And that is where our increases are coming from. However, we also are getting hit with a bunch of litigation settlements, and that impact from the litigation settlements then decreases the values. And I actually don't have a meeting. I have a meeting with the Central Appraisal District, the City of Bryan, the county. All of us are getting together on Wednesday for the Central Appraisal District to tell us what happened.
Yes.
Because we don't know. All we know is that there is a significant impact from what is going on with the litigation. And the litigation isn't when you protest your property taxes as an individual. That impact isn't what we're seeing. What we're seeing is the impact of protests from older apartment complexes and older places here in town. So that's what we're asking them. Where did you come up with your numbers? How did this happen? And how is that going to impact us? If we lose that valuation, then the rate has to go up.
Right.
And that will impact everybody, residents, multifamily, and commercial.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a huge trend. For sales tax, the number's gone up. So if you look in the budget book at our sales tax number and you look at 2019, it's going to be in the $20 million range. Now it's almost in the $40 million range.
Right.
And you're going to think that, oh my gosh, they've got that much more sales tax. The problem is you have to adjust those numbers for inflation.
Right.
Take all of the inflation that's happened that we were all feeling with eggs, bread, gas, all of that. Take that all out. And when you do that, we are getting a sales tax increase of about 1.5% per year,
Wow.
which is not significant.
No.
So those two things coupled together have us a little concerned about what we're seeing right now.
Yes, and that is something that why we start so early, because we as a city start our budgeting process earlier than some, or earlier than some would think. So why is it so important to start when we do?
So we actually start the process in like the first week of February.
Yes.
Prior to that, we have meetings with both, they're called retreats, but there's meetings with council as well as with management team, where we get an opportunity to find out what is everybody thinking, what direction are they headed, so that we're not kind of squirreling off the road. In February, then we start with the budgeting process, because if we don't start that early, we don't have enough runway to be able to make adjustments when we get the property values in March and when we get them again in July. So we need those, and then we need to be able to have enough of a guess about what the sales tax is going to be. Things like who's coming to town for football games. It makes a big difference.
It does.
When Notre Dame and the first TU game in God only knows how long, and George Strait, all of that stuff makes a difference that we have to forecast out and then take it out of the forecast the next year if we're not playing at that level or don't have the concerts or the huge extra events coming into town. So by starting early, we have enough flexibility to run multiple scenarios and see what our sensitivity is related to what we're going to propose. If we're off by 0.5%, will that make a big deal? If we started too late, we wouldn't be able to tell.
Right. And something like, so the state is proposing a 2.5% revenue cap. How does that impact the city and the city's finances?
So literally I ran that first version of, so hot off the presses, I have not even told city leadership, but I ran that scenario on Friday because it passed the Senate, but with the House out, it hasn't passed.
Kind of up in the air,
Yeah. But 2.5% is going to make it extremely difficult. Inflation is averaging, and inflation numbers come out this week, inflation is averaging 3% since the hyperinflation has gone down.
Right.
We've settled at a new norm, which is about 3%. So if you're settling at 3% and your revenue is at 2.5%, what you get is this gap that's going to grow. And how to manage that gap, we don't have an answer yet. We just know that that's what math does.
Right.
And so it's going to be a gap that's going to grow if it's not addressed in one way, shape, or form. You can't have your cost of gasoline to fill the police cars and the fire trucks can't go up more than the revenue that's coming in to pay for that. So.
Right. And that is, again, something that comes into planning and anticipating what could happen far enough in advance.
Right.
And talking about this, we've kind of jumped around, but what is kind of like the budgeting timeline, and how does it get approved?
So right now, what we do is we actually do something. We start in February. And once we start in February, then we go through a process where all of the directors get to say, these are the priorities, these are my wants and my needs. And then all of those are actually ranked by the department directors. Mm-hmm. And one thing that a lot of people don't know is we actually have a nationally recognized budget process for this that is being emulated across the country right now. I go about annually every year. I go and I teach at a national convention how to do this process. And we rank everything, and then we know what the limit is within our tax rate. How much revenue would we have to be able to prioritize those needs? Once all of the needs are presented to the city leadership, then just the directors of the departments and city leadership go into a room, and we, I call it the cage match. It's not really a cage match, but we go into a room and we discuss what truly are the priorities.
Right. What
really has to happen so that we can get where we need to go. And out of that process, then we develop we review it with the city manager, and we develop the city manager's budget that then goes to council, which is what you're seeing. Once it gets to council, it's a very public process.
Yes.
Where there are a series of public hearings. There's a budget public hearing. There's a tax rate public hearing. There is a meeting this Thursday to discuss the tax rate that council is going to have the public hearing on. And then we have at the end of August, we will have a very long meeting that all of the budget pieces will be laid out and adopted or not adopted by city council, whichever way they end up going.
Yes, so a large span of time in between.
Yeah. Pretty much February to August.
Yes. Okay, and what tools, like you mentioned, the latter half of it is more public facing, but what sort of tools or communication pieces are there for the public to have their voices and opinions heard for the budget?
We've done a lot of things in the last, I'd say, 5 years or so, particularly since COVID, to try and get public input. First, the very same tools that the directors use to rank everything, we cull that down to what it looks like might end up in the budget, and we ask the citizens to rank it. So there's a poll that basically goes through this tool called Prioritize, where citizens can go to the city website and tell us their thoughts and give us their 1, 2, 3 order of what they think is most important for that year. We have a seminar supper where I'll pretty much, we have dinner, citizens can come, and I give
free.
Yeah, for free, we provide dinner. And I'll pretty much answer any questions anybody has after a presentation about this is how it's developed. My classes over at A&M, they actually are involved in this process because they get what's called College Station Day.
Yay.
Same kind of thing, where I explain to them how, in particular, the capital process works, and then they go out and they rank what they think are important capital needs. And coming into that day, they might think one thing. Leaving, they have a much different perspective of what's important and what isn't. We have videos on the website that Public Communications has developed, and I think they're fantastic, where They're narrated and animated, so they're a little more engaging. It's not somebody just talking to you to explain what the budget is. There is a blog post that goes out and a bunch of social media. So we have tried everything we can think of, and if somebody has a bright idea, just email me.
Yes. Do not be afraid to contact Mary Ellen or ask questions. Even just commenting on Facebook. I know we always pass those along when people have questions. I read them all. So again, email, that is the best form of contact for you.
Yes.
Where can people go to find out more information on the budget?
So the budget is publicly posted already. It is on the front page of cstx.gov. It is also on the front page of the fiscal services, and all of, I think it's like 20 years worth of budgets. I don't know. It's a long time. But a whole bunch of older budget information, as well as the actual information where we take, this is what actually happened compared to what was budgeted. All of that information is on the Fiscal Services Transparency page, and anybody can go out there and download it and ask us anything they would like about any of that information.
Okay, thank you so much. Before we go, we have a fun little segment here that we've been doing. It's a fun quick rapid fire this or that game, all related to math today.
Oh, great.
So something that you're very familiar with, something that scares me. My family is very much split, where half of them went on to be engineers in accounting, and the other half of us are in the creative fields. So very much split between left brain and right brain people. So starting things off, are you more of a mental math person, or do you prefer a calculator?
Calculator all the way.
Gotcha.
Otherwise, I can't afford to be that far wrong.
Right.
So.
Gotcha. So do you prefer credit card rewards or a high interest savings account?
High interest savings account, because I don't have the time to track credit card rewards.
Right. They make them so complicated. Do you prefer the beginning of the fiscal year or the end of the fiscal year?
Oh, so that one's hard because it's the exact same day for us.
Right.
So I actually would say the beginning of the fiscal year, because we throw a party upstairs in finance that is a New Year's party.
Yeah, fun. So do you balance your checkbook by hand, or do you have a banking app?
Oh, I've got an app.
Okay.
I'm a technology girl.
Gotcha. And finally, do you prefer to splurge on one big item or buy lots of small little treats?
That highly depends on my mood. So highly. If I'm stressed out, I'm buying a lot of little things. So otherwise, probably a big vacation.
Gotcha. Very good answers. Well, thank you so much for being here today. It was a great conversation. Again, check out the Fiscal Services page on cstx.gov. And Mary Ellen, thank you.
You're welcome.
And that's what's up.